Hi, welcome to all of our attendees this evening. We're going to give everybody just a minute to get logged in, get connected to the audio presentation. You are all on mute. My name is Mandy Now, and I'm the Executive Director of Health Professions Week, and I want to welcome you to our very special panel this evening, Women's Health Care, and an interprofessional look at women's health care. We will be recording the session tonight, so if you don't wish to be a part of the on-camera session, please just keep your cameras off. And if you have questions this evening, go ahead and put those into the chat. You are welcome to chat them directly to me. My name is Mandy, or you can chat them to everyone, and we'll be moderating the chat for those questions throughout the hour. The top of the hour, I'll open up breakout rooms, and you'll be welcome to self-select which breakout room you'd like to attend. Please feel free to drop in and drop out. These are smaller breakout sessions designed for you to be able to ask questions of the providers and the practitioners here tonight, maybe ask a clarifying or a follow-up question or a deeper dive question. All of those are 100% on the table. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Tiffany Jackson, who is joining us from our amazing partners at the Tour for Diversity in Medicine. She'll be acting as our moderator to start the conversation off. And she'll also be leading up one of the breakout rooms, but she'll be in the main room when we turn over to the top of the hour. So if you're interested in the allopathic perspective, just simply stay here. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Jackson. Welcome and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mandy, and welcome everyone. Welcome to the Health Professions Week, and in particular, welcome to the Careers in Women's Healthcare panel. I think we'll go ahead and start with everyone introducing themselves. I'll kick it off. Like she said, Dr. Tiffany Jackson. I am an OBGYN attending at Northwestern University in Chicago, and I'm a member of the Tour for Diversity in Medicine, and I'm happy to see the panel this evening. I will through my screen as everyone is presented. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Katie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Stage. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I am located in Tempe, Arizona. I work for the Sonoran University of Health Science, and I went to undergrad at Northwestern, so it's fun to see that you're representing.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Stage. And I will turn it over to Dr. Loftus.
Hi, I'm Dr. Adrienne Loftus. I am an OBGYN at New York Institute of Technology, College of Osteopathic Medicine at our branch in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I actually am a generalist OBGYN, and I also teach at our medical school.
Awesome. Thank you. And next we will go to Karen Liu.
I'm Karen Liu. I'm a certified athletic trainer. I work for Varsity Spirit Cheerleading and Dance, and also serve as an adjunct faculty at the University of Miami in their Master's in Athletic Training program. I'm located in Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, sounds warm. And next we'll have Rochelle Dum.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rochelle Dum. I'm a certified prosthetist orthotist in Baltimore, Maryland. I work with an outpatient private company called Dankmeyer Prosthetics and Orthotics. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And Erica Parks.
Hi, my name is Erica Parks. I'm a physician assistant, and I practiced for a few years in women's health and in primary care as well. And now I am a full-time faculty at a PA program in Gainesville, Georgia, called Brenau University.
Awesome, thank you. And last but not least, Dr. Deal.
Sorry, I muted myself today.
Unmuting Mandy, Dr. Deal.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amanda Deal. I'm a family medicine physician in Jonesboro, Arkansas. My practice largely I see women and children in my practice, which is fantastic. I am able to work with Dr. Loftus. We're both faculty here at the New York Institute of Technology, College of Osteopathic Medicine at Arkansas State. And I also serve in the administrative staff here. So happy to be here. Thank you for welcoming me, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being with us tonight, both our panelists and our students who are participating. We will go ahead and jump right into some question and answer. First of all, and this can go to whomever would like to answer first, but can you tell me a little bit about your path into your profession?
I can kick it off. I had somebody in my family. Honestly, medicine was not in my wheelhouse, really. I was going to be a park ranger at one point in my time. I still think I could do that, but I love nature. So, but I had somebody in my family. She was a registered nurse, and she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and encouraged me to pursue medicine. And I just kind of continued to meet more people that helped me along that path and guided me into osteopathic medicine. And then I just kind of flourished from there. Family medicine came to me because I liked everything. And so I wanted to have a practice where I could do a lot of different things and interact with a lot of different people. Over time, my practice has kind of turned into more of a women's health focus. I still deliver babies and then see them as newborn care, and I'm very, very fortunate in the fact that I can still teach and do all of that as well, and just surrounded by fantastic colleagues and friends. And yeah, my path was a little windy, but it's my path. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in?
My
Sure,
path
I'll go
was
next.
like, oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Awkward Zoom moments. My path was windy too. When I was undergrad, I was determined to be a physician, and I decided I'm going to study philosophy and anthropology instead. I want to travel the world and learn about different cultures. And I ended up coming back to learning about herbs as a really large interest. And so that brought me to naturopathic medicine, which wasn't something I was even aware existed when I was younger. And lucky for me, there was one of the few schools close by where I already lived. And so I went through our medical school a little bit later than most people go through medical school, I think, my 30s, and have been really excited to be able to incorporate, herbal medicine and homeopathy and nutrition and lifestyle in a practice that's very much family medicine oriented. And so I also love nature, and that's how I was able to incorporate that into my professional life.
Awesome. Thank you. Karen?
My path also was a little bit windy, but I knew what I wanted to do from the beginning. It was just a little bit challenging getting there. So I had a neck injury. I had rotary subluxation of the C1 and C2 vertebrae very young as an athlete, and met an athletic trainer while I was going through treatment and decided that's what I wanted to do. So I picked the school I wanted to go to. However, academics and I did not get along at that time. So it was a short-lived opportunity at my first institution, and then my second institution. And finally, I went to the University of New Orleans, where I had the opportunity to work hand in hand with LSU School of Medicine in their orthopedic department, and really found my interest. And at that point, I knew that I wanted to continue in athletic training in sports medicine, had the opportunity to work with Division I athletes there, went on to get my degree in physical education, also my athletic training certification. I taught one semester of school where I thought I was going to be a high school athletic trainer. There was this man, you may know him as Lil Wayne. Dwayne Carter was in my class. That was my first and last semester of teaching. After having him in there, he single-handedly ran me out. I went on to get my master's in cardiac rehab from what is now University of Louisiana at Monroe. I then taught at Southeastern Louisiana University, where I had the opportunity to start very young in the athletic training education profession. At that time, it was new. It wasn't really, women weren't engaged in athletic training at that point, and certainly not as program directors of large athletic training programs. I stayed there for 10 years and then went to the University of Miami, where I was for 5 years. And then my husband's career as a military aviator took over. So we've been all over the Southeast, and throughout that time, I've served as an athletic trainer for Varsity Spirit, where I work full-time now, working with cheerleading and dance. And my focus in my career has always been in female medicine and how I can best really assist and promote cheerleading, getting the same coverage as all athletes, but mostly females as well. Had the opportunity to be a part of the PASS initiative with the CDC, with their really involved in engagement development of the heads up concussion protocols, and certainly represented females in that. I am now, as I said, in Pensacola, Florida. I work for Varsity Spirit, serve as an adjunct for a couple of different athletic training programs, mostly University of Miami. I'm a proud mom of 2 little boys.
Thank you. Yeah, certainly not everyone can say that Lil Wayne personally impacted their career decisions, particularly not those outside of the music industry. So interesting tidbit. Would anyone else like to chime in regarding their career path and how they ultimately got where they are today?
Sure.
If not, I can certainly.
Oh,
Go ahead, Dr. Loftus.
sure. Well, I actually thought from a young age that I kind of was interested in being a doctor, and other people, you know, kind of in my family and family friends and things kind of tried to, I guess, hone me into that. But I had no physicians around me. So it was definitely, I didn't know exactly how to go about that path. And, you know, high school kind of, you know, academics were kind of easy, and college going there. But I found myself getting close to graduation and not exactly realizing where I was going to go next and what those steps were to get to medical school. So as I got very close to graduation, I realized maybe I had missed something. And when it came time to take those next steps, I realized it was not going to be at that time when I graduated from college. So I had to come up with kind of a backup plan at that time of, yeah, this is still something I want to pursue, but what if it doesn't happen now? I need to be thinking about maybe a career for the future. And I did have support at home with definitely my family. My mother's my biggest supporter, but I was lucky to have that. Not everybody can say that. So to help to think of that, like having that backup plan if I didn't necessarily go to medical school. So I actually went and got a master's in forensic science because I said, hey, I really like science. I really like math, and maybe I could go into forensics, and maybe I could do kind of police work or some kind of, you know, collecting of evidence. And that was definitely something that was of interest to me. And so I found myself getting this master's degree. But as I got my master's, I continued to work towards going to medical school. And that's how I eventually I did go to medical school, osteopathic medical school. And the other thing, thinking about then, how did I become an OBGYN? Because I worked in an emergency room while I was going through my master's. And I just knew once I was in medical school, I was going to be an ER doc. I love the action, the fast pacedness. I knew everything that was going to be ER. Actually, I even did actually apply, as you would say. We know there's some different language to it as physicians, but I just knew ER was it. But I found myself actually looking for something where I could have some continuity or some continuous care for patients. I was like, patients come and then they go, and I'm like, what happened to the patient? What happened now that I helped give them some care? Where did they go? What happened to them? So I started thinking about, where else may there be need? And women's health care is something that I didn't myself have a lot of, I feel like, education about. I didn't feel like I got a lot of care in that area. I felt like people around me weren't really getting care there. And I felt that there was really a disparity there, kind of some lacking of education. So I started to look into that, and that's how I actually ended up going into women's health care, because I noticed I could still get some fast-paced things in there, and there were procedures, and I got to see patients on a continuous basis. So that's how I ended up going into OBGYN.
Thanks, Dr. Loftus. Yeah, my best friend is an ER doc on the south side of Chicago, so I think we share certain attributes within OB and ER. I mean, just myself, my aunt's a physician. I kind of went into college being pre-med, but quickly realized, similar to Dr. Loftus, that high school was easier and college academics were a challenge. I was also always not team science. And so I knew that that was going to be my struggle, and ultimately majored in theology with a minor in women's studies. Wanted to major, there was no ology at the end. And so then proceeded to take a year off in order to apply to med school, because I decided to space out my sciences so that I could academically do better at them. And then went to Loyola School of Medicine here in Chicago, which I credit wholly to their Dean of Admissions. And just, despite grades, despite MCAT scores, someone definitely took a chance. And I went in very focused on women's health. That was always kind of my interest. But OB is not the least demanding specialty within medicine. And so I spent most of third year trying to convince myself that something else would be ideal. Particularly as we have a family medicine program that was really strong and did deliveries, and still gave me that option. But I ran when I started seeing like diabetic feet and other things that I just couldn't personally stomach or deal with, ironically, because, OB. But plus, you get to be you get to operate, you get to do deliveries. I did a delivery at 4 o'clock this morning, and I have a tubal ligation surgery at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And so you get to kind of run the gamut there, certainly. And, I currently work for a federally qualified health center here in Chicago. And so my patients are fantastic, and you get to really work with some interesting pathology, although I will be switching to faculty in January. So a little bit of a different practice style. But yeah, I mean, it all, ultimately it's don't limit yourself, jump in and take that chance. So kind of segueing a little bit, and I want to really get Rochelle and perspective here, but how does your field kind of integrate with and participate in women's health? If you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so as far in our field, we see a broad range of patients across the spectrum. So as far as are you talking more about clinical care or entering into the profession, just as far as, so I can answer your question better?
Sure, you can definitely tell us your story, but I was speaking particularly about clinical care.
Yeah. So as far as clinical care goes, we do see a broad range of patients. So aside from my field is not really pertaining particularly to women's health in particular, so I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer this question. So there may be some other people on the panel. But so I don't know if I have a good answer for that, to be honest.
Okay, not a problem. How about we, Erica, would you like to kind of go into your background with women's health?
Sure. So similar to some of the other folks on the panel, I had a bit of a bouncy pathway, circuitous pathway. And I was a park ranger for a summer. So I know. So Dr. Deal, I really feel you on that. Nature is important and nourishing. And and so, but that's kind of irrelevant. That was just kind of a fun thing for a summer. I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a while. So I guess one lesson I learned was that it's kind of never too late to make a decision about the career that you want. And also, in some ways, I think that maybe straight out of college, I didn't really know who I was or what I wanted. So I ended up straight out of college. I just knew I liked science, I liked nature, I liked microbiology, and had been a biology major. So I went to graduate school. I got my PhD in microbiology. And interestingly, the whole time that all those years of graduate school, I volunteered at a free clinic as a translator. I just sort of fell into it. Somebody asked me if I could do it because I speak Spanish. And so I was translating and spending a lot of time in the rooms with the doctors and their patients and with the nurse practitioners and the PAs. And so, so I did that for 6 years. And then the volunteering and the grad school combination. And it was by that point that I kind of realized that I'm not sure what I would do with a PhD that is so fulfilling as working with people. And I think that maybe healthcare is the career path for me. So I actually took a year off. By this point, I was almost 30 and I hadn't done a postdoc and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So those of you who are in your maybe early 20s, don't worry, you got a while to figure things out. And it's okay to like not know really what you want to do or how to even get there. So I volunteered some more and ended up being part of this really interesting free clinic out in Berkeley, California. And it was kind of this weird radical health collective type place. And I just knew that I wanted to help people, that I felt like healthcare and medicine was right for me. I felt like I had the brain for it and the interest in it, and also the desire to help people. And I was primarily interested in women's health and also health care for people who maybe are live in healthcare deserts or have issues that kind of impair their ability to get adequate care, such as language barriers and things like that. So I went to PA school. Backstory on that I could tell you all, because it's hard to get into PA school, so I could talk more about that if anybody's interested, but it's a very rewarding career. The nice thing about being a PA is that I went initially into primary care, but then I was able to just switch things around. After about a year, I moved with my family to Northern California and took a job at Planned Parenthood doing gynecology and STD care and abortion care. And so I was able to just kind of switch from one thing to another, from mostly adult medicine, primary care to women's health. And theoretically, I could just change specialties and kind of go into whatever I'm interested in, because I would always have that support from my supervising physician to consult with them and to learn what part of their patient care that they want me to be in charge of. So I really love the profession, the PA profession. It's great for folks like who are in my position in entering into their 30s and wanted to go into healthcare, actually as a provider seeing patients in a medical setting. And so that's kind of my story about how I got to where I am. And I've always loved teaching. So I'm teaching at this point and working 1 day a week in primary care.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I guess kind of just the world has been an interesting place over the last few years, but how have you all seen your professions kind of change over the last 3 to 5 years? And maybe where do you see any major changes happening in the near future? And I think I'll start with Rochelle, if that's okay.
I can answer that question. Yeah, I think, well, I've only been in the field for, well, in my own clinical practice for about 4 years, and then residency prior to that. So I have a fairly new perspective on our field in general. But orthotics and prosthetics is such a hands-on field. And obviously with COVID, a lot of things shifted towards telehealth. And so I've seen a huge shift in our field from totally, completely hands-on treatment to incorporating other elements of technology. We're doing a lot more digital work, digital fabrication, 3D work, and that sort of development, and pairing it with some telehealth visits for follow-up. Just looking at for other ways that we can move forward in the health profession. I feel like there are a lot of tools and resources that we can take advantage of. But with our field in particular, we work very closely with patients, very intimately in the room together to problem solve. We focus a lot on gait training and how to fit a device properly. So it's a lot of hands-on work. So the pandemic was really, really challenging for this. But I think out of it, we've learned to be a lot more adaptive than we have been in the past. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and hopefully can take advantage of some of the technology that's come out of the pandemic as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Stage, what have you seen?
We've definitely seen, really for me, I would say the advent of telemedicine. Before the pandemic, it was, like there were some phone calls, but it wasn't something I thought I was particularly interested in doing. And then suddenly that's what it was, for a while at least. So I got to learn how to do that, and have the technology that would support that kind of practice with patients. And I think I prefer, for the most part, face-to-face visits, and we're not doing surgeries or delivering babies for the most part in my realm. So it's more consultations, we can do exams, but there is a lot of times when a telemedicine visit would be perfectly appropriate to talk about treating different things. And I've grown to like that, especially to appreciate what it offers for women who need care and they're busy, right? And it saves them the time of trying to navigate across town and park and deal with, it can be stressful to visit a doctor. So I think that's the biggest change, to see how to develop that and how to reach people that may not have been able to access my care before. And for me to learn, how to communicate and reach them through this new platform, which is, it's a little bit different than face-to-face.
Absolutely. And you're right. The reality is, as OBs and family practitioners, we do so much hands-on work typically. Doctors Loftus and Deal, I know you all work together, but how is your practice? What have you seen, particularly within women's health?
think one of the things that, we're still, and it's going to take a while to get used to, is the Dobbs decision. And for those that don't know what that is the change in healthcare to overturning the Roe v. Wade constitutional decision to abortion care, and how that affects women's health care on many different levels. So it's not just about abortion care, and it's not just about someone's opinion on, whether this is right or wrong, but it's actually affecting women in many different ways. And we haven't even begun to see how actually it's going to affect patients that have no idea how, as far as like, it could be contraception care, it could be taking care of somebody during their pregnancy even, that has some kind of an outcome that affects how we can manage somebody. So it's not about, just an ethical right. It's about how people are treated and their access to care, whether the ambulance can come and pick you up or not, because you're bleeding and you're pregnant. All of these kinds of hesitancy, so that we're having to deal with. And there are all of these things that healthcare practitioners are having to discuss and talk about and think about before they actually move and do things for patients to be treated now, because there's nervousness and anxiety. So that's one of the, I think, big things right now that we're feeling in, clinical practice and for OBGYNs, women's health care, people, I could keep going on, but people, then we have the identity issues, gender identity, and things like that. So, these are all types of things that we're seeing, and I don't want to belabor this, and I don't want to, make anyone feel uncomfortable, but this is the uncomfortableness that many of us are feeling every day. And even if you don't agree with this, it's not about pro-choice or pro-life. It's about how can I take care of a patient, because we haven't thought about every single thing that could happen with a patient that, oh, I didn't think of that. Can I do that? Mm-hmm. Am I able to do that? Does the law say I can do that? What can I do? If I wait long enough, is this going to harm the patient? Because we took an oath, and first do no harm is something that many of us, all of us, think about every day. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's all very salient, and it's also very geographical. Those are a lot of issues that I don't have to think about still living in Chicago at a tertiary or quaternary care center, where we can still offer elective anything or take care of patients in the same manner. So that's certainly something. And I'm also a newer practitioner. I'm in my now third year practicing. And so I just took my oral boards exams virtually, because the in-person site is in Texas, and the College of Gynecology, the participants essentially revolted and said, what if I'm pregnant and have a complication and now I'm in Texas to take this exam? What are you doing? What if I have terminations on my case list and someone else can get a hold of that and now I'm criminally liable in the state of Texas? What if, there were just what ifs that came up throughout that process. And so the determination was to keep, even would we be in harm if someone knew that this was happening and who was in the building? Would we potentially be in harm's way given the current, nature of our country? But
But
so all of that
yeah.
came in. And that's small apples compared to people who are dealing with this on a daily basis in states where they find themselves medically and potentially criminally liable for care that they offered 6 months ago without a thought. Ms. Parks, I see you have your hand raised. Mandy, can she be unmuted, please? There we go.
Sorry, I muted myself. Sorry, I was gonna say something, but I did the polite hand raise because it's not urgent. I just had something to share once you were finished.
Go ahead.
Let's see, I will lower my hand. How do I do that? Lower hand. Yes, I just want to echo what you both have said about the abortion laws being kind of in flux and stuff. And it's kind of crazy to come from California, where I think probably nothing much is going to change around those laws, to now being in Georgia, where like I'm scared to run pregnancy tests on patients, because if it's positive, I don't know what I'm allowed to do. Like, I don't know if I tell the patient their legal options, which is you could go out of state, if you're too far along. In Georgia right now, there's essentially a heartbeat law. So like, heartbeats are detectable with a good ultrasound, usually like 5.5 weeks along. So to 6 weeks along. So it's most people don't know they're pregnant until usually after that point. And so it's really an issue. So like if somebody comes in there and they're pregnant and I diagnose them with the pregnancy, we have a positive pregnancy test, like what can I say? Am I aiding and abetting in an abortion? And can I be charged for that? Can somebody sue me if I tell the patient that they can go out of state to get an abortion, or they can go to this clinic to talk about their options? Is that aiding and abetting? So the kind of vigilante atmosphere is really scary for me personally. And we don't want to get sued, but then we don't want to harm our patient. We want to do what's right for them, and we want to make sure we're giving them accurate information, and that we're helping enable them to make the best decision for themselves, whether that's to continue a pregnancy or to get an abortion or to put a baby up for adoption, whatever is right for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a scary climate right now. But what I was going to say is, like, the silver lining that came out of the pandemic for the clinic that I was at as of a year ago, they were forced to ramp up and develop a telehealth service. And they did that within 5 months of the start of the pandemic. And it had been something that they had been planning for years, but had never gotten around to. And they kind of like ramped up this telehealth service for patients. And the really cool thing that came out of that is that we realized that many patients were very willing to do a telehealth visit and were very shy or unable to come to the clinic to do a visit. And so we were getting a lot of people on telehealth, and it just kind of exploded. And it was like, wow, it really felt like we were helping people. We couldn't do everything over telehealth, but many visits we could do over telehealth. And that increase in access for patients. And this was in a healthcare desert, which is like, you imagine like a food desert where there's no grocery stores that have any healthy food. Well, like a healthcare desert, is a place where the nearest clinic is inaccessible. It's like a 2-hour drive to the nearest clinic, or there's no primary care providers in a 300-mile radius, and you're like on these wait lists for years to get a primary care provider. So in that kind of situation, you can just do a telehealth visit with somebody who's maybe 600 miles south of you, but still in the same state, and you can just get your healthcare that way to some extent. So that was an amazing thing that happened during this pandemic that is a strange silver lining.
That's fantastic. I mean, again, geographical, I'm from Los Angeles, live in Chicago. Those are just, you know, there's so much to think about depending on where you are physically. One of the participants had asked about levels of education to reach the different professions, and thank you. I think most people answered via the chats, so the responses are there. I think the only group that isn't represented in the chat is the MDs and DOs, which is similar to Dr. Stage in that you do a bachelor's degree, 4 years of, but then you also would do a 3 to 7 year residency. And then with the option of doing fellowship training as well. So a little bit of a circuitous, and people, and certainly there's so much to think about in today's world. I do want to get to one of the other questions in the chat, however, which asks about methods or ways to shadow in order and how to get that experience. If anyone would
Athletic
like
training, you can
perspective.
usually, yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. Is that okay?
Sorry, my computer cut out just for a brief second there. Was someone in the middle of speaking?
I'm happy to take that question. I didn't know if the cutting out was my computer or overall. Okay. In athletic training, I think, or I know that athletic trainers are always willing to shadow and have those that are interested in the profession come and see what we do on a daily basis. Athletic training is a profession that is, I think, historically very welcoming and has easy access to the shadowing opportunities. Obviously, the compliance related training would be necessary just to shadow, as with, I would think, any health profession. But with our diverse background of opportunities for employment, you would be hard pressed not to find an athletic trainer that would allow for shadowing. So a simple process of trying to identify where you think you would enjoy working for a career and look up who the athletic trainer is and reach out to them. I know that seems a little bit just simplistic, but literally anytime someone reaches out to me and says that they have an interest in cheerleading or in dance or the performing arts, I immediately want to embrace that opportunity to share my love of the profession with anybody that is interested. And just going back off of the previous question, if I can for a second, with athletic training, we have changed so much over the last 5 years. We've moved from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree and enhanced our skill set quite significantly and really promoted interprofessional education throughout our entire profession. With that being said, the pandemic, because events weren't happening, was actually very beneficial to us as a profession. Athletic trainers were able to demonstrate their skill set and serve in a variety of capacities, whether it was with telehealth, whether it was on the front lines doing COVID assessments or treatments or working in other parts of healthcare population. So I think for a female, especially like myself, who was used to some clinical aspect, and then having my oldest was 3 months old when we went down and really got into the deepest parts of COVID, but I was able to do telehealth, telemedicine. and work with my collaborative physician to assist with that. So I think it really expanded our profession. It also gave us the opportunity to focus on some of our key initiatives as not just a profession, but as our main organization, the National Athletic Trainers Association. We focused a lot on diversity, equity, inclusion, but most important, access to healthcare. And that's always been my focal point for females. So any of you that are interested, reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you for a shadowing, or reach out to an athletic trainer at a career opportunity that you might enjoy later.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can jump in on this one too. So for same thing for prosthetics and orthotics, it's a very hands-on field, and the easiest way is to just reach out to some of the local providers in the area. Shri kindly popped some links in the chat regarding the education standpoint. So the NCOPE website that she put in the chat also has some local contacts, but there's another website that I'll drop in there as well for the ABC directory, which has a list of providers you can search based on the zip code to find someone that's close by. Just as part of my story. So I started as an engineer in undergrad. I knew nothing about prosthetics and orthotics. And then I think it was around my junior year, I started in a prosthetics design project as part of my junior and senior design class. And I actually connected with the company that I work for now, just as an engineering student at that time, set up a visit. I wanted to learn more about the field. So I called up Dankmeyer and said, "Hi, I'm an engineering student. I'm working on this project. Can I come by for a day?" Long story short is that I never left and came back on eventually after doing my schooling, but that changed my entire perspective. From not knowing anything to spending a day there, spending a day shadowing a clinician for the morning, and then spending some time in our fabrication lab, just learning about all the aspects of what is included in this field. And all it took was a phone call. You may have to call a couple different practices. Not everyone accepts students. Some more hospital-based programs may have some other forms and things that you need to fill out. Private practices are totally different than hospital-based practices. But definitely finding someone in your area, just reach out and call or send an email. You'll never know what you'll find.
Agreed. I definitely agree that there may be more hoops to jump through if you're going through someone who works in a hospital facility versus a private practice. Not that it's not a possibility, but private practitioners certainly have a little bit more autonomy in that sense. So thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add to that, or I can go to the next question? Awesome. So I see, we're talking about women's healthcare. We are a panel full of women on the panel. How do you feel like being a female in your practice or your field has impacted your career?
So how does being a woman impact my career, the path of my career, or just like what I'm doing now kind of thing, like how it's led?
Yep, either one.
I've definitely, I'm sure everybody that works with patients on here, I think women kind of assume that I'm maybe going to listen to them a little bit better. Although I've had some women that did not listen to me as physicians, but I think that they come with that assumption. I try to live up to that. I'm pretty open about talking about things that affect women, and especially as I'm entering more toward menopause. I definitely have some interesting experiences and conversations with my patients. Just kind of helping them along that path. I've definitely seen my practice age with me a little bit, which is a real blessing for me because I'm around women who I see women who are a lot of women who are my age and going through kind of similar things. So I think being a woman, I'm a mom, I have 2 children, and balancing different things and balancing relationships and a professional career. I think that attracts people maybe to me. I've always worked in education, so I've either been either in the military or in education in a residency program or in a medical school. So I think that also has maybe given me some patients that are coming because they feel like I'm maybe a little bit more up on what's actually happening right now because I'm teaching, when you have students around you, you're always having to know how to answer their questions. So you're reading a lot more, and that keeps me on my toes. I know it keeps Dr. Loftus on her toes as well. So I think being a woman has brought a lot of opportunities to me. I have some men who are my patients because I'm a woman, too. They're like, no, I think you're going to kind of tell me how it is, and my wife trusts you, or my mom trusts you, so I'm going to come here and trust you as well. So I think there was an article not all that long ago that came out that if your physician was a woman, you had a little bit better outcome sometimes. So that might have helped some patients make different decisions about that as well. But I a little tongue in cheek on that, but I do take it really seriously that people expect that I listen to them in a different way. People expect that, and I try to hold up to it, try to hold myself accountable to that. So yeah, I love being a woman in medicine. So I hope everybody else does too.
Absolutely. Would anyone else like to chime in?
I think that, classically we're seen as a woman, we're seen as nurturers, we're seen as being more compassionate, we're seen as, taking care of people kind of, as Dr. Deal said, and we're the person who classically, traditionally, right, raises the family, and we get everything done no matter what. Even when we're sick, we continue and we go on. And I think a lot of patients, that's what they see when they walk in the room and they see that their healthcare professional is a woman. A lot of times they think that of that person who's just going to keep going no matter what, that we're going to nurture, we're going to be the more compassionate person, we're the strong one, we're going to just do it all. We're multitaskers, we're able to just juggle it all, both at work and at home. So I think, that's how I also feel as going to work and having a career as a woman. And sometimes Dr. Dill knows this, I don't take that time that I need for myself because I feel like I have to take care of everybody first before I take care of me. So I think that's who we just are. I think that's the estrogen that's built in us. So it tells us to keep going and going and going. And sometimes we need to remember to, as I tell patients a lot of times, if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of home, you can't take care of family, you can't take care of other things. But, we don't necessarily take that on ourselves. But I think that's why our patients choose us a lot of times, because that's what we do.
For sure, for sure. I certainly think being women in the healthcare industry, I think we've done something to change the field. And I think OB particularly is a very female dominated specialty, but there is more of an emphasis on work-life balance, whatever that means, individuals, and a lot more emphasis on or understanding of life outside of work, because I think it's easy within the healthcare industry to become that super hyper focused, all encompassing individual. I mean, even now, one of the reasons I'm switching my job is because I do a 20. Plus, having had a kid, it's much easier to empathize with my patients, and we connect. Patients who are pregnant with me are now asking me how's my kid doing, and vice versa. So it's certainly a great experience to go through that with your patients. We have a few minutes left before the breakout rooms, so I certainly want to allow our other panelists to answer this or any previous question that they may not have had a chance to. Briefly.
For me, when I started in athletic training, as I mentioned previously, it was really a male-dominated profession. And I remember coming home and my dad saying to me, Karen, what are you going to do? Roll call, roll out the ball, and read the paper like a PE teacher for the rest of your life? And I knew at that point that I needed to make sure it was my mission to promote healthcare, especially for females. Being a female provider was important, making sure that the stereotype of athletic trainers was no longer, people were educated. My first job, I was hired as baseball athletic trainer at a large Division I institution. When I asked where the athletic trainer was for the women's softball team or the soccer team, they shared a part-time graduate assistant. And at that very moment, I knew it was important for myself as a female to be there for those female athletes. They are just as important, if not more important, than the male athletes, and need certain particular services, as we've been discussing reproductive health. I think that having sometimes all male providers is a barrier to their healthcare because they don't open up, as I think Dr. Loftus was saying, you feel that connection, or Dr. Jackson, to your patients. I was, right there with my patients. And I think just that access to care for females is so important.
Absolutely. Thank you. So